welcome. It is me, Anna, or Honeybee, however you'd like to call me, but I go by Honeybee in this world because it's fun and this life is not too serious. So we're going to have fun with this. My intention today with coming live is to invite my friend Lance here, but a little intro about what we're doing and what we're talking about is we're going to talk about Biolumina Spirulina and New Phoenix Rising as a company, how this all began, where it came from, all that good. And essentially, the reason why I want to share this with the world and why we're here together to have a conversation. So to give you a little bit of the lowdown, I have a brand, Elemental Serenity, which you're listening through on this channel and this feed, wherever I am on the social. And I have a deep belief for wellness, health. I'm a little bit upset with the system that we have in the United States of America as far as food, where it's grown, where it comes from, restrictions. And I chase real food, real goods, all of that, vitamins, nutrients, and I think that we should be eating from the source whenever and wherever possible. And since politics don't happen as quickly as we'd like them to, I think our biggest spending dollar and our power is in capitalism and consumerism is using our money where we'd like to, so that we can absolutely just nourish ourselves and this planet. And so I'm here at the beautiful Gaia's Apothecary in Morro Bay. Shout out to them. They made me a beautiful little latte with chocolate and ashwagandha and mushrooms and all of that magic. So you might hear people come in and out. Totally okay. We're actually are going to have some products here, hopefully, to share with Biolumina Spirulina. So if you're around Morro Bay, come to Gaia's Apothecary and check out their beautiful lounge and their crystal shop. And so coming back to what I was sharing about why I share and why I want to talk about this stuff with everybody in the world is because our dollar is important, and where we put our money and how we treat our bodies is the most important. So we have power in our own pockets every single day, whatever we're doing. Every dollar you spend, you're giving power to those companies and all the beautiful things that you want to nourish your life with. So I have with me here Leonard. He is the CEO and co-founder of New Phoenix Rising, which was, funny enough, how divine is this? Founded on 11/11/11. And he has been involved with the health and nutrition industry since 1975, when he started working in one of the earliest natural food stores in Eugene, Oregon, which is really cool. I've been there before. Over the years, him and his wife, Lindy, have studied and worked with some of the most forward-thinking scientists and doctors in their quest for deeper understanding of health and consciousness. So together, Lance and Lindia have personally created tens of millions of dollars in sales with their former company, Light Force, during which that time they also raised a family, traveled internationally on their wooden sailboat, which they built themselves. So very exciting intro to my friend Lance here with us. Hello, Lance. Thank you for joining.
Hello, Honeybee. Nice to be here.
Yay, I'm so glad you're here. And so I'll just give you a briefing of why, like, I know Lance. Quick rewind. 5 years ago when I was in Costa Rica at New Seed Gathering, I had met a man, Christopher Hills the third, and he was drinking this drink. It was blue, it was clear. I was like, what are you sipping on? He shared all about it, said it was a miracle superfood that his great grandfather, correct?
No,
Grandfather Christopher Hills was the godfather of spirulina. So when you Google the godfather of spirulina, you could literally see Christopher Hills is the guy. He's the reason why this has become a superfood in the United States. And so I met Christopher Hills III. He shared with me Biolumina Spirulina. I was sold. I wanted to help my psoriasis on my scalp. I wanted more fiber in my life. My digestion was wonky. I really didn't feel like I had a healthy routine. So I joined full throttle, became a distributor, started sharing with people. And fast forward, moved from Chicago to California. I'd been with the company for a few years, and I finally realized we lived in the same area. So then I got to actually meet Lance in person. So it felt like a really divine synchronistic thing for me in my life at the time, and which is why we are here now. And even though you're no longer in this area, I'm happy to do this virtually with you. And so, yeah, we have some questions, and I hope that you all gain some insight into what we're doing and how we're doing it. And I'll just ask some questions to Lance. So Thank you so much for being here with us. And thank you for being with us here, Lance. I know this is really exciting for you because you've been doing this for a while. How long would you say you've been doing this?
Well, actually, like you said earlier, I started learning about natural foods in 1975. So that's quite a while.
Wow.
That's quite a
Nice.
while. You have to do the math. I tell people I started when I was 5, but it's not true. I'm actually older than
Amazing.
that.
Amazing.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I'm,
cool.
I'm going to be 67 this next birthday.
I
So,
love that. And I never like saying how old are you. I like saying how young you are. How
yeah,
young are you? And there you
yeah,
go.
exactly.
Amazing.
Well,
Well,
both my wife and I, Linda, don't act our ages. I'll say that we're out there doing all kinds of interesting stuff.
because you really don't look your age, and I'm sure it's thanks to spirulina. That's one of the benefits of it, right? Just like,
Certainly, it's not the only thing that we've done to keep our health in line, of course, but it of everything we've done, I think, especially if you're looking just nutritionally, there's no question about it. There's no question about it. I mean, and the range is so broad. There's so many things it does. It sounds too good to be true. It's so good. But
mm,
I'll let you finish what you
yeah,
were going to say.
no. So I know you're the CEO of the company now, but if we went back in time, Christopher Hills is the OG, the original, the reason why this all began. So how did Christopher Hills get started? And I'll include a picture of him in this little video to share with you who that is. But how did he get started in the spirulina business?
Super great question. Good place to start because if you had asked me how I got started, I would have answered your question first because Christopher Hills was the man who really put this on the map. He was actually researching microalgae in the 50s, and not just spirulina, but other microalgae as well. At that time, he became a retired multimillionaire before he was 30.
Wow.
He was originally from England. He moved to the West Indies, as they called them, and he set up a life there and ended up getting involved with being what was then called an international spice trader, which today you'd call a commodities broker. But back then, it was a little more romantic sounding. A lot of things were more romantic sounding back then. But anyway, that's what he did. And interestingly, a little tidbit of information: the thing about Christopher Hills is when you read his life, and I encourage you to go to Wikipedia and look up Christopher Hills and read his bio. It's amazing. You think, is this guy Gandalf or what?
Wow.
He's so amazing. So we were super fortunate to meet him. But backing up to his earlier life, he became wealthy from this first business, and his first business partner was somebody whose wife a lot of people have heard of today. Her name is Louise Hay. I don't know if you've
Mm,
heard of Louise Hay. She wrote
yeah.
her very first book was "You Can Heal Your Life or Heal Your Body." I forget which, and it was all about the emotional connection with disease and wellness. A
Mm,
fabulous book. It's still a great seller. Anyway, she became very famous, and it was Christopher who encouraged her to write that first book because he was friends with her husband, who was business partners also. So it's
wow.
a little funny little tidbit. Now she just passed on not too long ago, but she had terminal cancer. That's how she got on her healing path. And she healed herself through the power of her own thinking. And I'm sure she did some dietary things too, but it was a very powerful transformation. So fast forward, Christopher became wealthy, decided to do some things he always wanted to do, which were like travel the world. So he went to India. And while he was there, he just happened to be there. He did some amazing things there. In fact, he wrote a whole book just about that one time because he was there for quite a while, and he met an interesting spiritual teacher there who was quite amazing too. Everything I'm telling you is like a whole story. We don't have time for the whole story, but the book is called "To the One I Love." It's amazing. Anyway, so he meets this spiritual teacher. Lots of funny and deep and heartfelt stories in that book about that. While he's there, he just happens to wander into this village where there's a famine, and he realizes that. Sorry, I get emotional when I think about people dying needlessly, but
Mm,
he realizes these people are going to die, and there's nothing he can do about it.
mm,
And
yeah.
here's this young man who feels like, he just conquered the world. He's wealthy himself. He can do whatever he wants. And here are these people. They're going to all die. And
Mm,
so he basically that was like a spiritual awakening for him, where he just decided, I'm going to do something about this. So that's what led him to start studying how can we feed people? And through that, he met this Japanese microbiologist named Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, who was at the time probably the most famous microbiologist possibly in the world, certainly in Japan. He was appointed by the emperor in World War II to study different ways of feeding people, because a lot of people don't realize, but before the Japanese attacked the US in World War II in Pearl Harbor, the US and others had blockaded them so that they couldn't get food. And so they had to find ways to feed their people. So this guy became super educated about algae and about using it to feed people. So it was a perfect match. And the two of them worked incessantly on this. They would be like, he said, they were working on it 24 hours a day because they lived halfway around the world from each other. So one would be sleeping, the other one would be working. Then the other one would be working, the other one would be sleeping, because at the time,
24 hours.
Christopher was spending a lot of time in London and in England, where he was from, where he also had started a kind of a communal household there of people who are interested in raising their consciousness. That all of this is talked about in his bio. But anyway, so they started doing that. They formed something called the Chlorella International Union. At the time, the microalgae chlorella was the best thing that they could find in terms of how to feed a lot of people. And it had some issues, but it had some good qualities too. So for several years, they did nothing but study that. Well, right around the early 60s, they read this article from this scientist who was in Africa studying these people who were seemingly really healthy, but yet they didn't seem to have any source of protein, and they couldn't figure it out. And they were eating these cakes, these dried up cakes that they would take this stuff out of the lake and dry it and then eat it. Well, that turned out to be spirulina.
Whoa.
When they read this article, Dr. Nakamura and Dr. Hills, Christopher Hills, that is, they thought, wow, we need to know about this. So they, flew over there, got samples of it, started researching, quickly realized this stuff is way beyond what chlorella can do. Now, that isn't to say chlorella is not a good algae. It is. It has its own unique and wonderful properties. But spirulina is in a class by itself. There's no question about it.
Wow.
A person can live on spirulina and nothing else. Now you might say, how do you know that? Well, Lindia, my wife, lived on it for 82 days once, and she was perfectly healthy. And we know people who've lived on it for a year and a half. Two nurses in California, they were monitored by doctors, medical doctors, the whole time. Their health was excellent. We know of a guy in Japan. We haven't met him, but Christopher Hills, our mentor, was friends with him, and he lived on a combination of chlorella and spirulina for 15 years. I mean, it's hard to imagine. But anyway, so that's how he got started. His whole thing was, let's feed the world. So they spent about 10 years knocking on doors, governments around the world and saying, look, guys, this is the solution. And one after the other, they found out that the governments were more interested in making money, keeping the status quo, and they just weren't really doing anything. They even had projects here in the US. They had projects in India. They had all over the world these projects going on. And the one in the US was going to be really big. And then right before it was supposed to happen, we had an election. There was a new president, and the new president cut the funding for the whole thing, and it disappeared. So anyway, this was a long process, many, many years. And finally, Christopher said, you know what, this is not going to happen through governments. They're just not going to do it. We need to make this popular in the US. We need people to realize. And at the same time that was happening, they were starting to realize, oh my goodness, this stuff, it's not just for starving people. Look what it does in humans. And so they started doing more and more research and discovering, wow, look at this. It has all the protein you could imagine in it, and it's all in the right proportions for the human body. It has 18 of the 22 known amino acids, all the essentials, just on and on. Essential fatty acids, pigments, chlorophyll, beta carotene. It has a number of different carotenoids in it. All the colors of the rainbow basically are in spirulina. And people don't realize how important these pigments are, but they're key to life on the planet. As we all know about the green pigment chlorophyll and how photosynthesis is really the key to life on Earth. But what a lot of people don't know is how magical photosynthesis is. They think that it's only in plants. Well, actually, it's now known that we humans can do photosynthesis too. We can get into that a
Wow.
little bit too. And actually, here's another little funny little tidbit I'll tell you. That right now, the latest science shows that photosynthesis involves time travel.
What?
Wrap your mind around that, right? Okay. I'll tell you this. I'll tell you one thing about that. The way this works in the human body, the way you can do photosynthesis in your body is you got to have a lot of chlorophyll in your body. Spirulina has as much chlorophyll as any food on the planet, or more than almost any, like way more than wheatgrass, way more than things that are thought to be really high. In fact, the only thing we know of that has more chlorophyll in it than spirulina is chlorella, that other algae. But they're
Wow.
close. They're very close. But
Yeah.
it's an amazing food. So fast forward, Christopher starts this company called Light Force. The whole purpose of it was to gather together people who wanted to be on a mission, people who wanted to say, I'm not just doing something for myself here by becoming healthier or creating a business to support me, because he consciously chose the network marketing model. And I know a lot of people that had experience with network marketing, and they think, oh my God, that who wants to do that? They see their friends coming and they go, oh, stay away, because
Right.
they're there to sell them something. And
Sure.
it's really just a flip of a switch. When you know that you're there to help somebody, you don't need to sell anything, because all
Right.
you're doing is you're offering them a solution, and then it's their job to decide if they want it or not. And that's what we teach our people. It's like the very first rule is, whatever sales techniques you might learn over the course of your career, recognize two things. One is, this is not really a selling business. Um, it's a leadership business. It's training people to be the best version of themselves. And number two is, no matter how great you think the sales technique sounds, think about this. Would you want someone to do that to you? If the answer is no, then don't do it, because this is about building relationships. It's not the quick thing. It's the long-term relationship. Like our relationship is becoming, now we've known each other for several years. That we're here to do good things. We're not, here to scam somebody, because we have a relationship. And that's what this is really about. So I'm kind of wandering all over the map here, but
No, yeah, no, this is really exciting.
so Christopher starts this company. It becomes big. I mean, this company did amazing things that people don't even know today still. Like right now, you can go online, you could find research that Harvard did that shows that an extract, which is mostly phycocyanin, the blue pigment that Christopher Hills created, they proved that it prevents and cures cancer in animals at
Wow.
Harvard. 3 years of research. That
Wow.
was paid for by Lightforce Company, by the sales that Lindy and I and a bunch of other really committed people made. We personally, that's where the tens of millions of dollars of sales that I was talking about came from, was our efforts to share this with a lot of people. So, there's a long story there. We won't go further with it, but we'll just say that Christopher Hills, more than any other single person on the planet, has popularized this. And, he's not the only one, but he did more than any other single person that we've ever known. And, we've been doing this a long time, and we know, there's a lot of, what's really cool. It's a two-edged sword. Right now, what's really cool is spirulina is beginning to have a resurgence, which is fantastic. Now, on the other hand, there's a lot of people jumping in because they see this great thing, and sometimes they're very well intentioned. Sometimes it's all about money. But even some of the ones who are very well intentioned, sometimes they will make statements that are not 100% true. Now, of course, we all want to know what's true as much as we can. So we're here to say we know a lot. We're not saying this to brag. We're just saying, after, what has it been now? 30 years of whatever it is. I don't even know how long it's been.
Amazing.
We've learned a few things about it. So we're happy to share that with you today. So that's how Christopher got started. Christopher eventually passed on. The company dissolved. We started New Phoenix Rising as a way to continue his work and carry this forward, feeding people. But, feeding people is not just about the physical body. As you know, it's about the emotional body. It's about the mental body. It's about the spiritual body. All of those are who we are, and we need to nourish all of them. And so we feel committed to building that into everything we do. even our compensation system. And I know that's not what we're here to talk about, but I'll just say that, we designed it in such a way to follow natural law. Nikola Tesla, most people have heard of him now that there's a guy who named a car company after him. He said, if you understand the secret of 3, 6, and 9, you can understand the secrets of the universe. So our compensation system is based on 3, 6, and 9. In fact, everything we do is based on that. Even this device that I'm wearing right here, which protects you from EMF, which we'll talk about too. All of that. So
Amazing. I didn't know this. And I feel like I just always feel divine alignment. I follow the numbers 333, the 111. I follow divine numbers. That's like how I guide my life, because I've asked God, source, whatever it is that I believe in, for guidance. When I see those numbers, I'm like, oh, I'm on a right path. So I feel like numbers do a lot, but also just knowing a more deeper on the back end of what you guys have been doing and your intentions about it makes me feel that much more a deeper connection to what I'm doing as I jump back, as I resurge back into sharing this and coming back. I made a video years ago on YouTube that may have gotten 230 likes or watches. And now my intention is to help feed people. And the reason why I did a research recently is because my brother was sharing with me how his 3-year-old daughter and my niece she's rarely sick, and she wakes up every morning. They have their spirulina. She has her spirulina mustache and she asks for it. And then she goes the rest of her morning with her spirulina stash. And it's the cutest thing ever. And he's like, yeah, we give her spirulina and they do this and this. And then I recently heard some friends' kids were really sick, and they've been sick since like for 6 months or 3 months ago. And it does break my heart, because I'm like, ooh, I feel like if I could turn you on to this medicine and magic, like, I'm not here to sell you. I'm here to I really want your family to be healthy because I care about you. And so this resurgence of me sharing it and wanting to put it on this platform is because of how deeply it's impacted my life and the people I see around me who do take it. Like, they have this inner glow to them. It's not just a hype, it's actually like a way of life. And so when you did New Phoenix Rising, I'm sure that symbolizes something. The words New Phoenix Rising, like, what does that symbolize and what does that stand for? Because it's a cool little picture of a phoenix and it's coming out of a triangle. It's all geometric and fractal. So I'm really curious to know what that means, because I just love it so much. I think it's cute. But yeah, I'd love to hear that.
good. Well, thanks for asking. Well, it's an interesting thing. Like many things that have happened in our lives, it seems like some of the most magical and wonderful things are unplanned and just spontaneously erupt out of who knows where. I feel like my own personal experience in life has shown me that when I believe that we all come here as souls into having this human experience in a human body, and that we have intentions that go beyond this life. In other words, we come here with a certain thing to do. Maybe it's to heal a certain thing. And maybe there's 20 or 120 different ways that could happen. But that's the underlying intent is always the same. And I think when we align with that underlying soul intent, or whatever you want to call it, then things go better for us and things are presented to us to assist us. It's like having clarity about your life. When you have the clarity, then it allows for all the things that are not a part of your life to kind of fall away, and the things that you need and that are desirable and that are moving you towards that vision that you hold inside, they're just there for you. And so this particular geometric shape came to me in a meditation, and the name came to Lindia. And what's interesting about the name is that Christopher Hills, again back to Christopher Hills, he wrote about 30 books, although he said he had another 10 or 15 that were written, but they just never got published. He was prolific at everything. I mean,
That's insane.
when you read his little bio, two things. One is just know that that's only touching the surface of his life. And two is like, even if you didn't know the first thing, you would say, oh my gosh, how does one person do all this stuff? And of course, the truth is one person didn't. He was good at getting other people to help do stuff, but still, it's amazing what he was able to accomplish.
And it lives on, like right now. It's living
yes,
on and living
yes.
on, and it
So
will for ages.
Yes, because it's not about something that's a new thing. It's been, spirulina's been on the planet for, well, scientists estimate about 3.6 billion years. It is one of the first life forms on the planet. We don't know exactly which one was exactly the first one, but we know that spirulina was among them. So it carries all the wisdom. It's survived all this time, and it does it without competing, which is amazing because we're trained to think that life is about survival of the fittest and all this kind of nonsense. When in fact, when you start to really dive into nature, you see things like, oh, why do the mycelia, the mushrooms under the surface of the ground, why do they help the trees communicate with each other? How does that happen? They don't have to do that, but that's what happens. Life is it's a web of communication and cooperation. And we in our kind of limited way of thinking have dumbed it down into something much smaller. But getting back to the name and the symbolism, Christopher wrote a book called Rise of the Phoenix, and it's all about this era that we're in, which is to say, we as humans, I think it's safe to say that we've kind of messed up this planet in big ways. I mean, we're losing species at the rate we're losing them right now. There will be like no species left in a very short time if we keep doing what we're doing. So there's something out of balance here. We could talk for a long time about that, but let's just say that there's also an undercurrent of awakening that's happening at the same time as the destruction is happening. And that awakening involves the symbolism that is in the phoenix, which the phoenix symbolism is worldwide. I don't know if you know, but in Asia, they have the symbolism of the phoenix rising from the ashes. The idea is that there's this destruction, but then there's this new life that rises out of it. And so, the phoenix is in Africa, in their mythology. The phoenix is in the mythology in Europe. It's in Native American, South American, North American. It's literally worldwide, this symbology, which is, it's amazing when you think, because our conventional view of history is that these people didn't have any contact, which we know is baloney, but that's still what's being taught out there. So this is the idea behind it, is that this is a way to reinvent yourself, to reconnect with yourself, with that part of yourself that is really truly the wise part, and the part that is here to fulfill the soul purpose. And we're not here to tell each person what that is for them. We're just here to support that in each one, because we believe that if everyone were following their soul pathway, there wouldn't be all these problems on the planet. That's just how it works. Right. So we see our company as a platform, like it's like a bridge from where we are now to where we want to be. It's a tool to help us get there. And it all starts inside. Our bodies are something that we all have in this short time we're here on the planet. We have a body. It's a temple. We need to take care of it. We have that. And then through that, we can express all these other things. We have interactions with our fellow humans. That's part of why we have chosen to continue Christopher Hill's tradition of using network marketing. We believe that network marketing can be a spiritual tool if used properly. Mostly it's promoted as a way to, or the image of it is a get-rich-quick scheme, which is absolutely not the case. Right. It's work. You have to work at it, like any business. Time. But what's cool about it is there's more cooperation in it. Your success it's enfolded in someone else's. They have to succeed for you to succeed. Your job is to inspire, motivate, train, educate these people that you're working with. And of course, it all starts with you. So that's the symbolism of it. It is the regeneration symbol. That was a big one for Christopher Hill's too. So
that's so cool. I didn't know that either. I just saw, I saw the symbol. I thought it was beautiful. I love phoenixes. It's incorporated in some of my programs that I do one-on-one with my clients. And I love the representation of something must burn in order to come back alive. Even being in California and the fire and the ecology here, and then learning about permaculture aspects, just everything that's involved with this has lit me up and makes me feel really called to share. And I do like the connection piece of connecting with people instead of just being at the store, like what the network marketing can do for people is like that connection, like coming together. Like me and my brother, we talk about it, when they order from me, it's just like a way for us to connect. So I really love this. And not like, I want to also share with like all of the community listening right now, like, why are we even like, what is this big deal about this micro blue-green algae that is resurging and coming out to light? It's like that important and that powerful because there's so many major benefits of incorporating Biolumina Spirulina specifically into our daily routines, because it can change the world. And like you were saying, when I feel vitalized, I feel like I can share from a full cup and be able to share my gifts and my offerings. I could wake up energized, vitalized. I feel like I'm myself. But when you are sick and you've been sick and you're sick and you're sick and you're sick and you're sick, and you hear people that say over and over again, oh, I've been sick for this long or this, it like hurts my heart because they're not living up to their optimum selves, or it can affect your mental health and your mental clarity. It could affect the people around you depending on how you feel, not just getting them sick, but like your energetic body system. So of course we are drawn to people that feel healthy, radiant. You want to be around people that make you smile. It's like all connected. So this, in a nutshell, has really helped me to level up myself, not just in business, but in my health. And it makes me show up for others in a way, like you said, leadership, show up for others, be an example. And also testing my limits, like the boundaries of like, oh, how healthy can I actually get? Like, how deep can I go? How vitalized can I be? So it's making me almost be in competition with a past version of myself. And so I would love to hear from you. Like, I know everything that I share, I've read from the books, Benefits of Spirulina by Christopher Hills. So it came from a book for me. Then I go deep in YouTube. So anybody could find this information. But what's unique about Biolumina Spirulina is something I want to share with everybody. So like, what would you say are some of the major benefits? That's one question. And then the next one is, which one sets Biolumina Spirulina apart really from the rest that's out there? Because we see a lot out in the market, and I know it's tough to distinguish and decipher what's good and what's not. So that's an important piece to touch on, I believe.
Good. Thank you for that excellent question. So I'm going to summarize the three things that set it apart with one word each, and then I'm going to just share some really basic stuff about spirulina, and then I'm going to circle back to what explaining those three. So we like to say it's the three P's. That's the way to remember it: potency, purity, and process. And so we'll talk about all three of those and explain what I mean by that. But just for the basics, for somebody who might be listening to this who knows very little about it, I mean, I'm just going to tell you some of the stuff that it does, why you'd want to take this. I mean, we're talking about energy. That's a real known one, but it's not a kind of energy like drinking a cup of coffee. It's an energy that is steady and even. And I mean, I can take spirulina right before bed. It doesn't keep me awake at all. It's not that kind of energy. It's not a stimulant. It's a nourishment. So energy is a good one. Sustained energy. Like you said, not getting sick. I mean, basically, I almost never get sick. Same with Lindia. And people we know who take it on a regular basis, that's true with them too. Balances your blood sugar levels, naturally satisfies cravings for things that are maybe not so good for you. So that's another thing too. When you get the proper nutrients in you, you tend to want this out of balance stuff less, because that craving for the out of balance stuff is often rooted in there's something missing from your diet.
Right. Malnourishment, a craving. And that's one thing. I'm so sorry to interrupt. It's one thing that I think I've noticed taking spirulina. My palate has changed. I don't crave the crap, the SAD, standard American diet. Like, I'm so turned off by things that are on the shelves that could live for ages, like astronaut food, because of processed and preservatives. Like, I truly crave real food. So that's I just want to share.
Absolutely.
So yes.
And that's really great when you start really young kids on it. And I'll tell you a quick story about our granddaughter. When she was really young, she was, I don't know, maybe 4 years old or 5, and she was visiting us when we lived in Port Townsend, Washington. And she had a little friend over that was visiting who lived nearby, who was the same age, and the two of them were playing around outside. And at one point, our granddaughter Kristen said, "Hey, you want to go in the house and get a treat?" And this little boy said, "Sure." So they went in the house and she got some spirulina out.
to share.
And they started eating it, and he goes, "This isn't a treat." And she goes, "Yeah, it's a treat. I love it. And because she's been eating it since birth, and to her it was like this great tasting stuff. So, for people who think, "Oh man, I don't know about the taste," it's like give it to your dog or your cat or your little tiny babies, and then get back to me and we'll talk again. But of course, there are ways to make it taste good too. But anyway, that's a fun story about the craving thing. It really does set their palate too in a really good way, so that they want the fresh food, they want the natural food. They tend to want that more, and that's perfect. They're not out there like, where's the next sugar dump? It also is great for if you're an athlete. If you need that extra energy, it's amazing for that. And there are a lot of reasons for this. It's one of the things we hear more than anything else is the relief of symptoms related to asthma. Oh my gosh, we hear this all the time, either lessening or completely going away. And of course, we know asthma is an immune-based, response. So it does absolutely support the body's immune system to be stronger and more in balance. It also promotes mental clarity and acuity. So it's very good for the brain. It promotes deeper, more restful sleep, less need for sleep. Better brain function. I think we mentioned that already. Weight loss is another one. If you need to lose weight, but if you don't need to lose weight, it won't cause you to lose weight. Again, it's not like a stimulant diet pill or something, but yet it will help the body stay in balance. Arthritic symptoms are often lessened. The whole metabolism of the body comes into a more of a balanced state. It also is very good for the digestive tract. It is a probiotic. A prebiotic. It helps the body have what it needs in the digestive tract in order to maintain its health there. I won't say it does everything for the digestive tract, but it's very, very good for it. It also is amazing for people who are dealing with certain diseases that we're not supposed to talk about that start with a C. I'll tell you, just 2 weeks ago, got a call from someone who said, yeah, her mom had stage 4, that stuff.
Keyword.
It was really bad because it was in her pancreas, and then it spread to her bowel, and it was like, oh my gosh. And the doctors were going to do the normal thing that they do, chemotherapy and radiation. And she just said no, and they thought she was crazy. She pulled her mom out of the hospital, and her mom couldn't eat. She had lost her appetite completely, and she just got the spirulina down her. She was able to do that, because it's liquid, or at least it can be if you mix it in water or something. And 3 days later, her mom goes, I'm hungry. She's like, really, Mom? Yeah. What do you want? And she just made her exactly what she wants. She started eating again. And then she started giving her biomagnetism treatments, which is an amazing, wonderful modality. That's all she did. Biolumina, biomagnetism treatments. About 3 months later, she was like cancer-free. She took her back to the hospital. They couldn't find anything. Now, this is
and I really want to touch on that too, because I think I've read somewhere that people who were affected by Hiroshima was taking spirulina, and I feel like I've heard something along the lines about radiation, UV radiation. Like, I feel like if you explained it, it'd be way better than me, but I just know that it's supposed to be good for that too, right?
Yes, absolutely. Great for radiation in many forms, even like the sun. We've had many people who are like, the kind of person with red freckled skin who like can hardly go out in the sun at all. And one of our distributors who loves to be in the sun, and she has that kind of skin where she just burns just like that. She always wears a ton of protective clothing because she likes to bicycle long distance. Well, she started taking it, and she discovered she not only didn't need all the protective clothing anymore, but she could be out in the sun for extended periods and not burn. I mean, this is huge. We've experienced the same thing in our family. Myself, I have more pigment in my skin, so I have a natural bit of protection, but we have people in our family who are like super fair skin, and who have been out in the sun a lot. Now, of course, you can't just take it. It's not like a drug. You take it one time and you go out in the sun and kill yourself. No, you want to build it up in your body. But it's great for that, but also, like you were saying, for other kinds of radiation. And yes, and they did use it over in Japan, and the results were amazing. They also used it with Chernobyl, and the results were amazing there too. In fact, our farm sent some there to Chernobyl, and it made a huge difference, especially with children. I mean, these kids had their eyes bulging out of their heads, and they took the
Wow.
spirulina, and it made a huge difference. Now, we can talk about why that's so too, but I'll just say it's good for the skin. Like I said, hair and nails grow faster and are healthier. And a little story about me: if I stop taking the biolumina, my hair starts getting gray. It's my younger brother. He hasn't taken it as much, and he has much more gray hair. But
So interesting. I actually made a joke to someone once when I started taking Biolumina Spirulina. I wasn't straightening my hair at the time, but I realized that there was like new patches of hair growth coming out. And I was like, what is this? What is this? What is this? And I was like, why is this happening? And I go through different phases. And I, of course, know that we have different hair patterns. Everyone goes through different growth spurts, but it was in direct correlation to me, like eating it more frequently and having it in my diet than it was previously. So I love like how thick my hair feels. Yeah, and my skin, I feel like I glow. Like I have naturally a lot of melanin, but when I go in the sun, I never put protection on, to be honest. I probably should, but there was something about just like feeling protected internally from the inside out. It's like in our blood system. I'm like, how does that even help?
Yeah.
Like, reflect or retract or repel the UV rays from entering our skin. I'm like, well, it's got to be in the blood. There's lots of science around it, spirulina being in the blood and helping with all of that, and even diabetes and leukemia. My Nona had leukemia, and I was reading about that, the big L word, and I was like, why? How is that possible? Like, what could this little microblue algae do to help somebody that has a blood condition? Like so many, I know we're not doctors, we're not here to claim to be doctors or anything like that, but there is science out there if anyone's interested in going deeper and deeper and deeper to dig into those places, because I've heard of those things before.
There's a lot of science, and that's something that you can find on the internet if you like, or if you're having trouble finding it, people can reach out to us and we can point them to it, because it's out there. It's public information. You can get it. It's also great for if you've abused your body with drugs or alcohol. It's helpful for that. It will actually, there are some certain things, like if you're doing chemo, we always tell people, look, call us first and talk with us about it, because it wants to get those drugs out of the body. And so the best way to do it, if you're doing that, is to take it in between rounds. But anyway, we don't need to go too far down that. But really, that's one of the beautiful things about it is there's really no warning labels on it. Little kids can take it, infants. Our son took it our youngest son was adopted. We adopted him before he was born, not legally before he was born, because you can't until he's born, but we were there with him through the pregnancy. And then I was the first person to hold him. We had a home birth, and we didn't have mother's milk because he was adopted. And so we gave him diluted goat's milk and spirulina, and he thrived on it. And now there's even better, you can add other things to it that we didn't know about back then. But it's an amazing, amazing food. So whether it is you just want to, I tell people, look, you're only going to make one change in your diet. First of all, make it with food if you possibly can, because our bodies like food. Not, I'm not going to diss supplements, because some of them are really good, but there's a lot of junk out there too, and a lot of poison added to most supplements. And the other thing is the body recognizes and utilizes nutrients in food better than in any other way. So because spirulina is a food, it's not a supplement, it's not a drug, it's a food, you actually get more out of it. But it's also because the food is in such an amazing state, meaning it's so usable when it's in there. So let's talk about what sets it apart. So what sets it apart is the three things I mentioned, the three P's. The purity of the spirulina. We'll talk about that first. There's a lot of spirulina in the world now, and that's a good thing in a lot of ways. But like anything, there is a downside too. The downside is that right now in the US, 70% of what's sold in the US is coming from China. And that is not a good thing, because it's grown in polluted conditions. Spirulina is an amazing thing. It can clean up polluted water. It can clean up it can do all kinds of bioremediation. it absorbs these things and transmutes them. But you don't want to eat spirulina that's been absorbing, heavy metals or something like that. So you want your spirulina to be clean and pure. So one thing about ours is there is no spirulina in the world that's tested even as much as ours. We actually test to the nanoscale, which there is no other farm doing that. We test 40 different tests on a regular basis, everything from metals to, other organisms growing in the ponds to just all kinds of parameters. And because of that, we have the highest certifications. Now, one of the things that sometimes people say is, well, why is your spirulina not organic? And there are other spirulina brands out there that are selling organic spirulina, and ours is not. Now, this is going to sound weird because we're totally organic in our family. We buy everything organic that we can. We relax that a little bit when we're traveling because it's just too much stress to not, to try to be 100% organic when we're traveling. But basically at home, everything we get is organic. But in this case, and in this case only, there may be some other that I don't know about, but in this case, organic is actually not as good as non-organic. Now, you might think, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, here's the story. Well, first of all, the spirulina from China, let me just say one more thing about that. It gets rebranded by other companies. And sometimes companies will change their source and they don't say anything about it. They were selling last week something they called spirulina, and it came from a farm in the US. Then the next week, they're selling something that came from China, but it's called spirulina. I'm not going to pick on companies, but I'll just mention one just as an example, because I know they're not alone in this. Now, they're a big company. It's called Now. They market all kinds of supplements. They used to get their USA spirulina. Now they're getting it from China. And, even if it's certified organic from China, we've looked at the places where they grow that, and they're so polluted in those places that humans have to wear masks anytime they go outside just because of the pollution. So,
That's insane.
And then they irradiate it. The spirulina from China has the lowest microbial count. Every food in it has microbes. I mean, you pick a plant out of your garden, it's got microbes. It's a whole biosystem that we're living in. Our job isn't to kill all the microbes, it's to keep everything in balance. That's what makes optimal health inside our body and around us. So all foods have microbes. So when you get a spirulina, it comes out of a pond, gets dried, and we'll talk about that. It has microbial stuff in it. Well, there's certain limits that the government has set where ours are way, way, way below that. But the lowest in the world is what's coming from China. And do you know why? You'll probably guess. So I'll tell you. They irradiate it.
Ooh.
Yes.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
It means they use radiation on it. What does that do? It kills every kind of microbial whatever.
Oh.
So they go, look at ours. The levels are much lower than anything you've ever seen. Yeah, that's because you irradiated it. They do that with other foods today, and they say it's okay. But I know scientists who've measured radiation coming off of it. So do you want to eat that? No, don't eat Chinese spirulina. But now I'm not. Now my stepmother's Chinese, so I don't hate everything from China.
Right. No, but you're like in the science and you're in the field and you like know down to the microscopic, like what is good and what is not and why is it a big deal to us. So that's important.
But aside from that, let's talk about some of the other ones. The purity is one that we've talked about, and the potency is another one. So one of the things that is true is that spirulina is like a lot of other things. It takes some expertise to grow it well. The funny thing about spirulina is you could grow it in your home, in a little tank or something. It's not really hard to grow spirulina, but it is really hard to grow really good spirulina. And so that takes some skill and knowledge. Now, one of the things that's true about our spirulina is the levels of nutrients tend to be higher than other spirulina out there. I'm only going to talk about one today, and that is the one that we brag about the most because it's one of the most important things, and that's the phycocyanin.
I was just going to say, is that the one where I thought it was psychocyanin? And I said,
yeah, I forgot about that.
Psychocyanin. You're like, that's cute.
Yes, no, when you take it, you feel just a little psycho. No, phycocyanin. which means basically FICO is like life and cyanin is blue. It's like blue. Basically, it's in reference to the blue color. It actually has more than blue in it. It has a spectrum of colors. Now, for those who are familiar with the chakras of the human body, or energy centers, they call them chakras in India, these are associated with different colors. The pigments that are in our foods actually relate to these energy centers as well. The phycocyanin relates to the higher centers because of the color. It naturally, and it's interesting, I think, that it also has shown very promising results, for example, with Parkinson's disease. There's research that you can find on that, phycocyanin and Parkinson's. You can, look that up on PubMed or wherever and find some of the research on that. So we're talking about, again, the brain, but phycocyanin does many, many, many wonderful things in the body, including, like I said, the research at Harvard that our mentor did all those years ago. That was a phycocyanin-based extract that he created. It was from spirulina and another algae, and the other algae was Dunaliella. Now, that is an algae that has the most beta carotene of any algae in the world. Naturally grows in Australia. It's a bright orange. Now, just to give an idea, spirulina. Now, most people, when they think of beta carotene, they think of carrots, right? That's what it was named after. The orange color of carrots is beta carotene. Right. Well, and people would say, well, carrots are a good source of beta carotene. Well, spirulina has 20 times as much beta carotene as carrots. Dunaliella has 200 times as much as carrots. It has a lot of beta carotene. So Christopher, in all of his wisdom, made the extract out of those two things. There are a couple other things in there, but the pigments are the key. The pigments are the key. Just keep that in mind. Chlorophyll, beta carotene. In his case, he had 7 different carotenoids. Beta carotene is one of many carotenoids, meaning they're all carotenes, but they're different kinds of carotenes. Phycocyanin is a blue pigment. There are other blue pigments. Phycocyanin happens to be extremely rare. The only known food source of it is spirulina. There is another algae that has it in there. Actually, there's probably a bunch of other algae, but the other algae that most people have heard of that has phycocyanin is called, well, the popular name is they called it blue-green algae. It's from Klamath Lake, and I won't spend a lot of time on that. I'll just say, don't eat it. It's not safe. Yes, it has neurotoxins that are emitted from organisms that grow with it, and it also emits its own neurotoxin at times. And you cannot tell when that's happening by just looking at it, smelling it, whatever. You have to do expensive lab testing. Most of the companies that market it don't do that because it's too expensive. Or I've even known some of the big companies that many people have heard of who, when they got a batch that was too high of levels of this toxin, they just diluted it with another batch till they thought it was safe, So basically, you're eating that toxin. And I could tell you a lot of stories about that, but that's not really the point here. The point is that it's not a good microalgae to eat. And, and the other thing is, if you're eating it for the phycocyanin, spirulina actually costs less than that algae. It has 100 other things in it that are besides the phycocyanin that are all really good and that work together. So it's like, why would you even consider eating that? There's no reason to. It's not a good idea. It does not have a historical history of use, like some people claim it does. It doesn't. People have said, oh, yes, the Native Americans ate it there. Well, that's a bunch of baloney. And I'm not just saying this from, my opinion. I mean, I used to live there where it grows, and I belong to this organization called the Southern Oregon Native American Center, 40 different tribes. And we would meet every month. And I know a lot of Native people from that area. And I'm telling you, it's not part of their thing. It never was. It's mostly there because of runoff from agriculture that has caused it to be there. So, but anyway, that's enough about that. So blue-green algae is a great thing if you're getting the right algae. And spirulina, like I said, it's in a class by itself. So the potency levels are up there. Now let's talk about the phycocyanin just a little bit more. First of all, phycocyanin is beautiful. I'm going to show it to you right now so you can see what it looks like. This now people are selling it all by itself. In fact, they call it blue spirulina. It's not blue spirulina. It's just phycocyanin that's been extracted from spirulina. So whenever you see that on there, oh, the blue spirulina, it's like marketing hooey. It's not true. This is pure phycocyanin right here. I'm going to show you this. This is a glass of pure water, and I brought a little pure phycocyanin with me. Why do I have some pure phycocyanin? It is just such cool stuff to play with, and so I have some around. Plus, who knows, we might use it in a product someday or something too. But here it is. Now I'm putting this in water. You know, you can see.
Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful.
Isn't that amazing? Now, if I were to take this outside in sunlight, you'd see even more colors in it.
Oh my goodness. It reminds me of the blue lotus butterfly tea thing, that powder I have. So blue. For those of you that are just listening to the audio, you can check it out, the video format. And yeah, please show us again. So tell us that's the extracted version of it.
Yes. So this stuff, if we were to buy it, I mean, the amount you get in one, jar or pouch of biolumina, if you were to buy that, you'd be, I don't know what the current price is. I haven't checked it recently. It actually has come down because worldwide they're starting to extract it more, and they're actually using it. I mean, believe it or not, they use it in M&Ms now as a coloring, which is like, that is the only reason ever to eat an M&M, is that it has. And if you're going to eat them, just take out all the blue ones.
Wow.
Yeah, it's used as a coloring. Well, actually, as a food coloring, you couldn't get much better than phycocyanin, right? Now, of course, it's better when it's taken in spirulina because it interacts with the other pigments and the other wonderful phytonutrients that are in there, and that's really good for your body. So it's if somebody's selling it that way, it's really kind of a marketing gimmick. But you'd have to pay hundreds of dollars to get the amount you get in one of those, and you're paying way less than that for one of those, like $60 for this. And if you bought the amount of phycocyanin in this, you'd pay probably 3 times that much just for the phycocyanin. So
wow. And that's what sets basically Biolumina Spirulina apart from the others. It's like has the most phycocyanin in it, meaning that pigment, the thing that is the healthiest version of it. And I love the theme of it's like a blue green. To me, it's like the blue that you just showed me is really bright and blue. But when you're looking at the spirulina powder, it's almost like a peacock blue green. Like it's just got this really beautiful kind of, I don't know how else to put it. Like I like to call it like mermaid green. Like it's like a very deep color.
Yeah. Right. So if you see spirulina that's super green and doesn't look like it has a lot of blue in it, that's because the phycocyanin is low. So let's talk about what I mean by it has the most.
Yeah.
So most spirulina out there on the market today has less than 10%. Some is over 10%, a little bit. Ours, we don't buy a crop unless it's 20% or higher. And right now we're sending out Biolumina Spirulina, this particular batch, although we're just about to come into the next batch, has 23 point, I forget what, I think 23.5 or 0.3 or something. It's between 23 and 24%, which is like off the charts. I mean, 20% is high. There are gurus, health gurus. I won't mention any names. I was about to, but I think I won't, just in case he watches this, of people out there who, are promoting themselves as knowing a lot about spirulina. And one of them, who was really well known, I wrote to him and I said, hey, because he was just getting the idea that phycocyanin is a good thing, and he was starting to talk about it. I said, I just want you to know our spirulina has a minimum 20% phycocyanin in it. And, I was writing to him to see if he wanted to do something, work together on it, so he never wrote back. But then the next week, his podcast, he said, and I wouldn't have known this, but one of our friends who used to work for him told me, oh yeah, you should listen to his podcast. So I did. And he said, oh yeah, and we've recently discovered that spirulina's phycocyanin content can be as high as 20%. And like he somehow discovered it or something. But anyway, that is true of every bit of Biolumina Spirulina. It's 20% is the minimum that it is, and it's often higher. Whenever it goes above 23, though, we try to tell people, hey, look, guys, in case you're a phycocyanin aficionado, now's the time to get some. So we still have some of this left. The third thing, so the phycocyanin content is number 2. The third thing is the quantum infusion, and this is like such a big thing. It's really huge, actually. This technology is so powerful and so in alignment with nature. We can do a whole show on it, so I won't go too deep into it, but I'll just say that sometimes people will call us and say, what do you guys mean by this quantum infusion? Is this just like marketing hype? Everybody's talking about quantum this, quantum that today. What does it really mean? Well, in our case, it's not hype at all. And in fact, one of the studies with our technology has been actually accepted by a mainstream medical journal and published. Not in the US, but in Europe. They're a little bit slow here.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, we are probably the last ones, even though we're trying. I trust Europe, Italy's flour, all of that. Yes, keep going. Tell me more.
They don't, the thing about this quantum stuff is that if you look at virtually any quantum technology that's being hyped or advertised or talked about on the internet, try to find one that's been published in a mainstream medical journal. I don't think you will. So it's what that says. It's a short way of saying this is a substantial technology. And the person who invented it, who sadly is no longer with us, he's the head of our quantum physics team. He, if you went to college today and studied his area of quantum physics, you would read some of his work. He's originally from Russia and barely escaped there with his life. Fortunately for all of us, he came to the US and he created this technology that is actually very much in harmony with traditional Chinese medicine. So it happens that everything in the universe has we call it a quantum or nanoscale energy signature. We don't call it a frequency, because it's not a frequency. A frequency implies that we can measure it. It has a number. We don't know how to measure these things yet, but we know how to influence them, and we know how they influence us. And we can measure the results of that influence in the human body and in other things too. So when we say that our biolumina, and that's why we call it biolumina, by the way, is because it's not just spirulina. Physically speaking, on the physical level, that's the only ingredient, 100% spirulina. But on an energy level, what you're also getting when you eat this stuff is you get that quantum infusion in your body. And it produces measurable results in the body. Now, what does it do? Well, spirulina is a kind of universal food. We consider it a foundational food. If I were left on a remote island with nothing to eat and I only had 3 things I could eat, and I had to pick 3 foods, one of them would be spirulina. No question about it. It is something that, well, we can talk about it, and many people have, but I'll just say that it's a foundational food. And when we put the quantum infusion in it, we want to match that same, that be in the same neighborhood, so to speak. So what's in there is good for virtually everybody. It's not, focused on one particular condition or one particular body type or one particular age group. It's just universal, like spirulina. So what it does is it improves core strength in the body. It enhances physical balance. It helps with recovery from stress and a few other things, but they're all things that everybody can benefit from. And we do this with all of our products. We think that this is the most advanced form of energy medicine that we know of, and we want to introduce this concept to people. And
so you infuse it with this, you call it quantum infused because it's infused in it. And so how would you describe, like how does that even look on an energetic level if you infuse it with something?
So what it doesn't look like is, it's not us praying over the spirulina. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But what we do is we have, the key to quantum infusion is plasma. Plasma is an amazing subject all to itself. There's whole books written about it. And some people think that plasma itself is intelligent. They think that plasma is, some people believe that when we leave our bodies, when we die, when our soul leaves our body, that that's plasma. Some people believe that. And some scientists believe that. It's an amazing topic, but we use plasma and we use computer controlled plasma generators. So picture this. The quantum infusion facility is a room, maybe, I don't know, 12 by 18 feet. And it has several quantum infusion emitters. Now, some of them are designed to infuse things that are big, like a 55-gallon drum. Some of them are designed to infuse little things. So like when we infuse the spirulina, we use the big emitters because we're infusing a lot. When we infuse these, which are also these in Trinity Plus, which protect you from EMF, we use a different infusion pattern and we do it in a small chamber. So there are these smaller chambers that have smaller emitters and then bigger ones. The whole room is lined with aluminum because that metal contains these energy signatures better than anything else we know of. And so we don't treat the whole building. And yeah, so every bit of this that we provide first it gets grown at the farm, and then whatever whatever batch we're getting, like let's say we're getting 2 tons of it, so then we take 0.2 tons and we send it to the infusion facility. They infuse that 10 times stronger than it needs to be. Then it goes to another place where it gets mixed with the rest of the untreated. And that's because then we don't have to ship 2 tons back and forth. And so, and because they can do that, which is very, very economically cool. I will say that we worked with other energy medicine technology before we discovered this one. And I say discovered, I mean, we personally learned about it because our head scientist, Yuri, worked on it for 40 years. But before we connected with him, which is another whole story, we were working with another amazing scientist from Southern California who uses actually lasers to enhance nutrient absorption. An interesting, wonderful technology, actually. But the problem with it is we had to infuse every single bit of the spirulina, and it was incredibly labor intensive, incredibly expensive. I mean, if we were using that technology, this right here would have to sell for at least double what we sell it for, at least.
Wow.
Probably more. So we just thought nobody's going to buy it. And then when we found this other technology, we realized, oh my God, this is like way ahead of the other one anyway. And it has this advantage of we can actually do this economically. So then it gets packaged. So that's the process that happens. And it's an amazing thing. And that's what happens with all of our products. So they all get shipped. Some of them, we treat all of it. Like with the Fearless tea, which also comes in Miron, and we'll talk about that too, Miron glass, that gets 100% of it gets treated. Luckily, it doesn't weigh as much as the spirulina. Right. There is that whole shipping thing. I mean, in the ideal worlds, we'd have the farm and the quantum infusion facility and the packaging all right in one place, and we wouldn't have all this shipping. But that's not how it is for right now. So that's what separates it, and that quantum infusion stuff is amazing. I mean, we're always working with different formulations because in our creation of products, we want to introduce people to energy medicine because when you eat this stuff, and this is what the refill pack looks like. It's very eco-friendly. It's a cardboard box with a pouch inside, and so that way, each time you buy Biolumina, you don't have to pay for this frankly expensive glass. I mean, if you go online and find one of these jars right now, because other people sell them besides us, you're going to pay $30 just for this jar.
And that when you started explaining it to me in the beginning, when you shared, because like I'm all about eco-friendly. I just came back from Bali. Plastic is an issue everywhere. And you're like, how do you get rid of all this plastic on this island? And when I first started drinking Biolumina, I was like, what can we do? And I was like already trying to think ahead. I was like, plastic, plastic, plastic. No, this can be better. And then y'all came out with this concept of taking this blue Miriam glass jar and just having it refilled, which is amazing because you're reusing something. This can be, I like to burn anything that isn't like plastic. I burn paper, I burn everything but like cardboard. But for you, there's also, you said something about a benefit. One, spirulina never expires. It's like better than astronaut food. It doesn't expire if it's kept in its powder form. So you can have it for ages, eons. But you said something about the blue glass jar that like benefits the spirulina in such a way that it like adds nutrients to it, I believe, or there was something along those lines.
Jar. Now the other jar can be cobalt blue, it could be green, it could be clear, it could be amber. It doesn't matter. Whatever color it is, does not matter. Take both jars, put 2 tomatoes in, and pick them both at the same time. 2 weeks later, open them up. The other jar, the normal jar, it looks like you would guess, shriveled up, in there from sitting for 2 weeks. The Miron glass looks like you put it in there a day or so ago. And the same, it's amazing. So that particular frequency preserves, and it kind of makes sense that the Egyptians would know about it because they were all
They're
into
so good about preservation.
they're all about mummies and everything. I mean, they're all about preserving stuff, right? So
Right.
there's that, and then they said, oh well, it actually enhances. So this one company that we know, they market these pollens that are very sensitive. They degrade really fast, and they were trying to figure out how can we keep these longer without using chemicals. We don't want to use chemicals to preserve them. And they tried a lot of different things. So they heard about Miron glass, so they gave it a try. And one of the experiments they did, they put some of the pollens into Miron, and then they had them in another kind of packaging that they used that was, really high-tech packaging. And they did tests on these before they put them in. And they let them sit for a year. And then they opened it up and did testing. The stuff in the Miron glass not only they were hoping that it would degrade slower. Well, it not only degraded way slower, but the nutrient levels were up from what they tested before. They were just completely blown away. And actually, the way I found out about this is from the man who supplies us with the oat straw for our Fearless tea, who is an organic farmer that lives near you. You might even know him. His name's Larry. Anyway,
cool.
Yeah. So anyway, he told us this about that particular company. So because I was surprised, he goes, "Oh, I know what Miron is," and it's like, "Really? What do you know about it?" And so he started telling me these stories. But anyway, we really believe in it, and so we've wanted to supply it, packaging it for years, but we thought, this is heavy. I mean, this weighs more than the spirulina that's in it, and so it makes the shipment cost more. And the glass itself is expensive. And, and how many of these do you really need? Well, some people get them from us several months in a row just so they can have a collection, because you're not going to find them that cheap anywhere, and you can use this. People put their coffee in these because it lasts longer. I mean, people put all kinds of stuff in these.
I was just thinking like any herbalist that like uses tonics or potions or wants to preserve anything like that would be genius, according to what you said. So why not add your
there are more and more companies using it. There's a little sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. There's a little company not far from us up here that we just learned about that does these amazing organic herbal skin treatment things, and they're all done in Miron. So very cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm excited to get mine because I had the old plastic jar that I've been like, my spirulina lasts for so long, but I've had it for a while and I need to like upgrade. So I just got my refillable so that I'm going to put it in the Miram blue glass jar once I order it, my next package. And there was something that just came to me about the drying process, because I know that was something that I know people have asked me about. And so I want to be able to, authenticate and say how you all do that in your process as well. Good.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, it's another one of those areas that's kind of funny. Oh, I never finished telling you about why non-organic is better, or in this case, it is better too. So I'll work that into this too. So I'll finish that first. So what happened is I'm going to make this real short, but a few years ago, the US government changed their organic rules, and they said a wonderful, perfectly natural organic ingredient that is necessary for growing high quality spirulina is no longer allowed to be used in organic agriculture. Well, it made some sense for them to do that in organic agriculture, because in agriculture, this ingredient, which is Chilean nitrate, actually can mess up the soil if it's overused, and they end up overusing it a lot. And so they said, no, you can't use that anymore. Well, there was some logic in that, but they applied it to aquaculture as well. So they basically made it almost impossible to make organic spirulina without using a replacement ingredient. You need some form of nitrogen in order to get the high protein levels and all these other levels too. It has a big effect. And so they basically, a lot of companies started, they didn't want to lose their organic certification, so they started using other things like animal blood and stuff like that. And the animal blood, the problem with that is, there are many problems actually, but it compromises, how do you know what those animals were doing? Were they eating GMOs? Is the product really vegetarian at that point? I mean, I guess you could argue that about spirulina in general. Now it's called a cyanobacteria, but it's actually changed over the years. When we first got involved in it, it was called a nuclear plant. It was a group of organisms that were neither plant nor animal, and they called them nuclear plants. So we used to joke about it back then and say, it's the only safe nuclear plant you can have in your home. Or it's the only safe nuclear plant anywhere. But anyway, that's just a joke.
Wow.
But now they call it a cyanobacteria. But in any case, this whole thing about the organic thing is, we decided as a company that that's not really safe. We don't want to expose people to what they get exposed to when other ingredients are used in the I know we've been going on for a while here, but we can wrap this up. But anyway, one thing that is true is that the alternatives to using the Chilean nitrate are really not safe, and there's only a few farms in the world that have decided to go the safe way. Now, what we're doing right now was 100% organic certified for years, and then this little rule change meant that we had to make a choice as a company. Either do we sell organic and use this inferior way of growing it, or do we do what we know is best and safest and lose the organic? So we've lost the organic certification because we know it's better.
Wow,
So
yeah, that's
we
huge.
just say, it's beyond organic. It's better than organic.
It's beyond organic. I really like that.
Yeah.
Because like even in the standards of organic, sometimes you can, there's a gray area there where you can say it's certified organic, but yet there's no one coming around to test certain things. So even sometimes when something says organic, it's hard to trust because you don't know for sure, which is kind of the sad reality, right? Like labeling, greenwashing, certain things can potentially not really be what they say they are, as long as there's a certain percentage of it, right?
Right.
I mean, I
That's
know
right.
that's a whole different thing, but
Yeah. It's really sad. We don't even realize that we're basically under attack right now by companies that are just doing crazy things. That, again, that's another whole
right. And which
interview.
just to share with everybody, Lance and I will be having more conversations, not just about the spirulina, but we're going to talk about more about the harmonic biome, the fearless oat straw, that blend as well, because it's not just spirulina, but spirulina was the conception and the whole thing behind this project. And now they've added more juicy goodness to the company and more things that you can add to your diet, which I hate using the word diet because diet has D-I-E, die. You don't want to die. It's not a diet. I like to say our nutrition, our wellness.
You're livid.
You're living. You're living. Yes. And I love it. Were you finished with saying that?
Well, I was gonna talk about the drying,
Okay, the
because
drying, of course.
so the
Yes.
drying, the thing about the drying is that, spirulina breaks all the rules. I mean, it's just in its own category in so many ways. And one of them is that you can take spirulina and if you dry it properly, and I'll explain what that means, it's actually still alive. So what's in this box could be regenerated and grown into spirulina. Same thing with this, because we know how to dry it. Now, what does that mean? Well, in its natural environment, spirulina can live in, it likes super hot temperatures. It gets up to 130 degrees Fahrenheit at the farm where we grow it, the air temperature. And the spirulina actually likes that. It likes heat. It is one of the secrets, actually, that most even growers don't even know about, which is that is one of the secrets of how you get the super high phycocyanin, is the heat. That's not the only secret, but it's one of them. And so that's one of the reasons why you don't see this phycocyanin level because all of these other farms are growing in places where they don't get that level of heat. So if you look at, well, where did spirulina grow originally, naturally? Well, the very best spirulina in the world grows in Ethiopia, in the Rift Valley, where it gets to be 130 degrees sometimes.
And do you grow there? Is that where Biolumina comes from?
No, but yes and no. That's not where we grow. Although way back in the day, Christopher Hills went there and actually ended up meeting a scientist that we work with now, but that's another story. But he went there to try to get them to harvest and feed people, but that didn't work out. But that is where the strain comes from. And there are many different strains of spirulina, and that's the very best one.
So just for clarity, you will say Biolumina Spirulina it comes from Ethiopia. The strain
originally, yes.
Coming from originally.
But we grow it here in the US, yeah.
Okay.
And I was mainly bringing it up just to say that's what spirulina loves, is that heat. And so when you talk about drying it, here's another thing to understand, is that spirulina actually can take more heat. Like normally you look at a plant and you say, oh, well, if you heat it above a certain amount, you kill the enzymes and you destroy some of the goodness in it. Well, actually, it's not the same as other foods. Think about it this way. If the plant can live in that hot of a temperature, do you really think heating it up to 115 or whatever the threshold for enzyme destruction is, do you really think that that's going to do that to it? No. This plant can survive temperatures that are, when we dry it, what we've learned is the key is to do it quickly. Phycocyanin is very delicate. It starts to go away as soon as you pull it out of the pond. Ours goes from the pond to rinsing to drying in minutes.
Wow.
And we're talking huge ponds here. It's because we know that that's what protects the phycocyanin. If you leave it sit, there's some companies out there, we dry ours in the sun, it's more natural. It's like, well, yeah, it's more natural, but you know what? You're not going to get those high phyco levels, and some other things are going to change too.
So does the heat dry it, is what you're sharing, is like the heat that you use dries it quicker so you can keep the phycocyanin.
Phycocyanin, yeah.
Phycocyanin.
It's a tongue twister. Yes, and you can still overheat it. There's no doubt about that. But it's not a matter of like slowly drying it at 115 degrees or something like that. Our dryers go up to 180, but the spirulina never gets that hot. But it does heat up a bit, but it happens just like that. It's like real fast. And that's one of the secrets of it, is that it is fast. It's dried quickly. And, the results are in the phycocyanin itself. The levels are really high. And we know that.
Science.
Pardon?
I said, what a science. Like this whole thing is just
it is.
So much, from the temperature to the science of that.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. So anyway, that's probably enough about that. I do want to say one more thing about the products in general, is that our philosophy is that you need three things. We're talking about nutritionally, and of course, we're not talking about you need three things for your whole life. You need other things, like you need community, you need a purpose, you need a lot of things. But in terms of nutrition, you need to have the right nutrients. And with spirulina, there's nothing like spirulina in terms of a food. Now, if you're comparing it to some supplement that some scientists put together, they can say, well, ours has more of this and this and this. And it's like, yeah, but how much of that is actually going to get in your body? And what about that other crap you added in there too, you know? But as far as comparing food to food, there is nothing like spirulina. It has such a broad spectrum of everything you need that, you know, you can dispense with a lot of other supplements. I would highly recommend it. I mean, I add a little bit of vitamin C in the wintertime, but otherwise, the only other things I take are usually herbal things that I like. There's a product out of Colorado that if I feel like I'm about to get sick or something, which is almost never, I have a little bit of around, just take a squirt of it. It's an herbal product started by a company that I like. It's started by a bunch of women actually, called Wish Garden. They make a product called Kick Ass Immune. I don't mean to be advertising them here, but I recommend that. It's a great product. We've talked about actually making products with them, but anyway, that's another story. But so you need the right nutrients, and you get it from spirulina, but you don't just get the right ones in the right amounts. You get it in a form that is so usable. It's you know, they're naturally in that form. The next thing you need, and this is super critical these days, you need to be able to get those nutrients into the body, and a big part of that is the gut. People's guts are messed up today. We won't go deep on this because we've already been on long enough. We'll do this on another one, but the harmonic biome is amazing. We've had people who have literally gut issues their whole life, who've tried everything you can think of, and they take this, and within just a few weeks or even less, it's like disappeared. It's amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, one of the secrets
That.
of it is you can do all these things like putting all the probiotics in, and I highly recommend fermented foods, you know, whether it's yogurt, whether it's sauerkraut, you know, whatever it is, absolutely put that stuff in your diet, and that's going to be really good for your gut. But if you have already a lot of negative bacteria, like it's going to take a long time to heal that if you're just adding probiotics. If you take harmonic biome, it's completely natural. It's basically 3 herbs and then quantum infused, and they kill the negative bacteria. That's what they do, but they don't kill anything else. And so that gives your body like a jump start massively, and especially if you're doing other things like eating fermented foods. So that's part of it. The third part is you need to get rid of toxins, and that's what Fearless is all about. Because when you're getting rid of a lot of toxins, your kidneys are working overtime, and everybody's kidneys. You might not know this because of your age, but if you're a little bit older, you might remember a time when there was hardly any kidney dialysis centers. Now you go to a big city, there's like one every few blocks, you know, practically, because people's kidneys are just can't keep up with the toxic overload. And again, Fearless is a very simple formula. Both Fearless and Harmonic Biome were given to us by a spiritual teacher that we totally trust. He's told us that they were, or at least with the Fearless, that it was used, he said, in Essene times. That's like 2,000 years ago. And he said actually longer than that, because it came from Atlantis, which is where the Egyptian technologies came from too. Egypt is way ahead of a lot of places because they got so much from Atlantis, but again, that's a whole nother story. But those three work together so well that we came out with something we call Synergy. And when you buy Synergy, you get all 3 products, and they're discounted. Whether it's retail or whether you're a distributor, the price is lower than what you normally would pay. So it's really, really a good value. And oh my gosh, the 3 work synergistic. We'll talk more about that another time.
I'm so excited to talk about that. There's so much to talk about. I knew that this was going to be a really wholesome, interactive call because I've been wanting to do this. So I'm so thankful that we were able to do this. I know that a lot of people that have been watching me know that I've shared. If you're new to this feed, this is something that I'm diving and researching back into, and there's definitely a few ways to get started. So I'll share the link below. Basically, you could get your spirulina or harmonic biome or Synergy or Fearless all from the same link. It'll show in the upper right corner. You're shopping with Anna. And then from there, if you're interested in becoming a distributor, there's different packages that you could do. And then ultimately we'd make passive income together. So would be network marketing. We're working together. So it's not just buy and done, it's buy. And now we create a connection and we talk and you can meet Lance. It's all of this in the back end that I would love to share with everybody. So if you are interested in getting it, you can absolutely click it either below, above, wherever I hit the link, whether this is Instagram or YouTube where I'm sharing it. There's multiple ways to do it. And you can always send me a message or comment below with your favorite or which one you want to try, and I'll send you some more info. And I'm excited to continue more conversations with Lance Leonard because, as you can see, a wealth of knowledge from ancient times to now, just everything surrounding the wellness world. I trust and love these two, him and his wife and the family, and just diving into it. You could also go on YouTube, Amazon, find books from Christopher Hills if you're interested in diving deep into his whole philosophies. And there was a book that he had that had a whale and a rainbow. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cute. And it was like a little cartoon whale and a
Yeah.
rainbow. And I think it had something to do with spirulina. And I was like,
Fasting with spirulina. Yeah.
yeah. See, like even just that, I'm like, that seems like the kind of company that I'd want to work for. And funny enough, here I am. But it's just really cute. So I appreciate that. I feel complete in asking because I feel like we've just gone through so much and so much information and juiciness and the sustainability, the eco-friendliness. I guess the one last thing I was going to say was it's USA made and it's
Yes.
in California.
Yes.
It's in California. So it's California made and grown. And so at least you know where it's coming from and the source from it. Is there anything else that you'd like to share, Lance, before we completely jump off? And
I'll just share one quick thing, which is about the whole, distributor thing. We have a lot of people who just simply join to get a discount and share it with a few friends. And we actually reward them even for that. Like if you just give your link to 3 people who order products as a retail customer, then you get one of these for free the next month. So,
yay.
I mean, we literally have people who every month get free Biolumina. They never pay for it because they just have 3 people who are ordering, or even one person who orders 3. It doesn't matter as long as it adds up to 3. Then you get that. And so there's, it doesn't have to be like, gee, I'm going to build this giant business. Even if
You just do it. That's what I did actually when I first started, is I was like, I like it so much. I know people are going to love it. I don't know how many I've shared or sold. I've done 3 is free, gotten my free spirulina, which is awesome. And then I've also got a paycheck and gotten a cut. So it's really nice to kind of experience both. Now that I'm rediving back into it, just realizing the value of it in the long term. As I watch people around me continue to be sick, I'm like, no, there's value to this. And unfortunately, not in stores, but is available for online or your connection with us, because that is, and then we have like little pamphlets that you can get as well. So all the fun things are included in it when you get the certain packs, but I'll share some of those pictures below or above, and you can find it on the website that we have. And yeah, thank you for sharing, Lance. I'm so excited we got to connect and record and be together. And even though you moved away from here, I just feel really blessed to have you all as my soul fam, and that you guys are directly involved in the benefit of my health, the benefit of my life, my work, my all of that. It's just been super supportive, and I'm so excited, and I'm really grateful for you to come and spend this time with me. So thank you so much for spending time with us, and we're going to talk more. So you'll see
yes.
Lance again on this platform.
And Anna, thank you so much too. I
Yeah.
really appreciate everything you've done and
Yeah.
are doing. And you're welcome to come visit us too. So we will see you in person again, I'm sure. But
Absolutely. I have to see the wooden ship that y'all have.
oh my goodness, yes, our nonprofit. We're building a wooden ship with young people to help them build better lives. So that's another fun thing that
I
we
know we're going to
talk
talk about
about
that. Yeah.
another time. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Lance. I hope you have an amazing day, and all of y'all breathe well, infinite blessings, all is on time and all is divine.
Say
Ciao.
goodbye with my spirulina smoothie here.
Ciao.
Mm.